Overtime versus working weekend.
Overtime.
Why?
Well, you need to have a time for your family always, and it's been difficult if you don't have at least weekend for them. I'm not the best example. I know I'm trying to do as I said right now.
Trying to walk as you talk, right?
Exactly,
What does innovation mean to you?
Well, doing something you really like, which is very difficult these days because I'm starting from myself because my background and having in mind, I'm now doing, let's say, work by myself because I'm head of the company, and I can really, whatever you feel these days, sense from social media, read somewhere, especially having in mind the blockchain, how it's get big these days. You have a lot of ideas and you can innovate.
And many distractions with those, right?
Exactly, as well. I mean, these are distractions, but innovation means that you have a full open hand and you can do it what you want. In some environments it's difficult to do that because you are being probably focused on a goal, and in company you always have a milestone that you need to achieve, and somehow it's hard to innovate. But of course there are always companies that are doing also good innovations.
Read a book or listen to the podcast?
You got me there. Hopefully I would like to read a book, but I'm a bit ashamed because I didn't do it a lot of like a couple of years probably. I have a lot of books when I travel along Europe. I bought a book in each city.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a big shelf. Big shelf. Didn't read it still.
So it's still getting bigger, right? In the time.
Yeah.
And what from before, what would you say it's your favorite book?
Favorite one? Well, maybe from the way I was kid, because it can run your imagination, or a bit like Tom Sawyer, or like the discovery books, and books that keep your imagination going, but also sci-fi. Around that, and maybe Hijacking Software Through Galaxy is also a nice book, but I cannot say I'm really a book addict, so I'm not the right example to ask. For my mother was more forcing me to read, and she was right about it, and I was not reading when I was younger, but now too much distraction, as you said.
I believe that it's if you make yourself do it one particular time in a day or in a week, it will start getting better and better with how much do you read. So I have a personal goal to read like a big book a week, so 52 books a year, and I haven't done it now for 2 years, but before I was pretty good. In a couple of years I made it. So
I can try that, maybe especially in an airplane. And doing that routine, you travel a lot as well, so you can kill time there pretty well with a book.
Exactly. Most important personal trait in business.
A personal trait?
But one word.
There as well. I don't know, addiction maybe.
Oh, cool. I haven't heard that one. That's nice. And what is your biggest motivation?
I guess it's good to work for yourself. Again, this is my biggest motivation, because before I was working for the others, and when you realize that how much you put into it and you not always get as much as back as you want, and working also in these new technologies is very big motivation as well. I speak a lot with my colleagues, and the amount of ideas that comes up each day is too much. You just try to get your hands around the things that are there, that need to be finalized. So I would say, this is my biggest motivation.
So we'll go through some personal stuff, and we're going to immerse in metaverse. What's your biggest regret?
Maybe spending more time with my kids. Because even I was working a lot from home, around 10 years, even with the traveling, even if I'm at home, you're there, but you're not basically spending time with them. You're offline completely, shut down. They are around you, but yelling or shouting and working, but you're not completely dedicated to them. And this is my regret, I would say.
And how would you like to be remembered?
Well, maybe as someone that published a good manuscript, did new standard in IT technology, or created some service that everybody use.
Cool about the manuscript. You're trying to write, or
Well, no, I have a lot of writing manuscripts because I also have PhD in computer science. So occasionally we write something, and sometimes there's a lot of interesting papers. So yeah.
This is Chair, place where we discuss innovations. And I'm going to start this episode like this. The metaverse is massively scalable. It persists a network of interconnected virtual worlds focused on real-time interaction where people can work, social interact, transact, play, and even create. But this is only definition. So I want to be practical about this novelty that is becoming mainstream almost right now. On this subject, I have a great pleasure to welcome Nenad Gligoric. Welcome to Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nemanja.
This is our subject, metaverse. So let's go from the start. How was conceived and what needed to happen for metaverse to become what it is today?
Yeah, I mean, metaverse, in theory, you read a nice theoretical definition of metaverse, but we are still far away from there. And I would say it's conceived, if you get a few decades back, maybe more than a few decades, when the people were speaking about parallel universe, because there's a theory, it even called it like multiverse, and it's very similar word like metaverse. But there you have a lot of parallel universum like this one, and different. You exist there, but maybe you have different nodes, or you act differently, or you are the same person but doing maybe more popular things. I don't think this is not popular. But, yeah. But anyway, to get right back on the topic, there is so question about the alter ego. And people always wanted to get into imagination. How can they change their reality? And they always, want to maybe become someone different. But this theory maybe sticks. We'll see about the parallel universe. Nowadays, sci-fi movies, gaming, bring this topic into the first plan, especially the escalation of new technologies. So, I would say. We are still far away from the theory, but still there is a lot of things that are existing right now. They are very close to the reality, to the real multiverse that is expecting to be seen maybe in 50, 60 years.
And you just mentioned a couple of those use cases. Can we concentrate on some specific ones that are basically right now available?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I can select a couple of already existing from Facebook. I mean, Facebook rename it in Meta. So they have a Meta World, which is a game experience that you can go and enjoy different topics. Also, there is a sandbox gaming that I think Snoop Dogg there created his first Metaverse concert. So this is maybe a second of the potential use cases. And also I know Seoul put a lot of money to become a first metaverse city. So the public administration, you can go, with VR glasses and ask directly someone employed in the public administration. So this is just a few to name.
That's an interesting topic that you just mentioned, because previously we had one guest from government sector that we talk about exactly about this, about what they're doing in Seoul. And it sounds like science fiction, but it's actually there, it's implemented. Do you know what are the biggest challenges that they are facing, or overall that is faced in this idea of metaverse today? What needs to be overcome to come to that next step?
Yeah, I must say it's interoperability, because you have islands of different developments which doesn't work together. So metaverse is developed by Facebook, by Sandbox, by plethora of different technology providers, but there is no interoperability. So there is no de facto standard that should be respected. So if you even need to exchange some data or information between those, it will not work. So,
but that was same for internet before, right?
Exactly.
So
before it was a mess. Now
Yeah.
it's a chaos, like the beginning of the internet, and now we are waiting for something to get moved in a direction of standards, so that it can become basically something that can be taken by anyone, used by anyone, and that you end up in the same world. Because with Meta, you will end it with Meta in Meta world, in another deployment of metaverse, in another metaverse, and so on.
So whenever we are talking about this, and this is your specialty, right? Metaverse, Web 3.0, blockchain, NFT, it's all interlapped, right? Can we dissect this subject to try to put it in the right order stuff and to see how they are interconnected?
Sure. Yeah. First, I will not call myself expert for the metaverse, because the metaverse, like, is universe. It's a lot of different things that you should know there, and still there is a lot of things there to be designed and learned. But the mystification of metaverse, should probably start from technological angle. I always start from there because it's my background. So you will need to have, let's say, some trust between people that are there. Someone will need to enforce that trust. Like handshake in the real world, you need to have some rules, in the metaverse.
Yeah, for handshake we had like 2,000 or 3,000 years to become something that is meaningful, right? But
Yeah, I agree. And starting from there, you also need to exchange some money, and who will guarantee it will work like in the real person, in the real world. So some trust, for the data it's needed. And for that, of course, the first thing that comes up is blockchain, because it can enforce trust. So-called smart contracts are something like usual contracts between two people, but notarized. Ensures that this will be happening. What you present in those contracts, it will happen, and you can use those smart contracts. If someone behaves badly in a metaverse, you can reject him from the group or from the club or from the whole world. If there is a payment that needs to be invoiced, you can also do it by the blockchain. So starting from there, and also adding on top some more things that actually will attract people to be in the metaverse, like augmented virtual reality, which I think we are still not there, because like playing a game 20 years ago and playing the game today, now it's much closer to reality, and we are expecting, when you put these
bigger expectations, right?
Yeah, bigger expectations. Now, when you put those glasses, you should expect like seeing the people in the real world. So this is what is missing. Yeah.
You just mentioned blockchain, and then of course it's starting to become part of our lives, right? But what you say it's needed to happen for the blockchain to be completely integrated in our everyday life?
Well, from the aspect of the metaverse or in general?
In general, we can reflect that. How we can see how that is reflected on the metaverse.
Yeah, sure.
But
for that there is a so-called blockchain trilemma. So you have the centralization from us. It's triangle. So it's observed as a triangle, and you cannot always achieve more than two. So you have scalability, decentralization, and if you want to, let's say, Bitcoin is fully decentralized and it's very slow. So scalability is lacking there. And for, let's say, Hyperledger Fabric, which is a permission closed blockchain operated by few, more than few, but it's an example of few. You have a couple of entities that operates, and there is lack of trust there. So this is something that needs to pay attention to, especially this scalability. and with scalability is always coming. If you need to wait like for the transaction to perform for 10 minutes, it's not tangible in all use cases. You can apply it in some use cases where there is no demand for less delay, but in most of use cases it will fly at the end. And what would I say beyond this trilemma probably is energy efficiency. So you're speaking about the blockchain and about the employment in a real world, in metaverse or whatever. But one of the biggest threats for the climate changes is actually energy consumption. Heating is coming from big plants that are exposing a lot of energy and want to produce more energy and so on. So if you cannot reduce the consumption of the blockchains, you will not have the real application of it, especially in these times when this is a high topic.
Yeah, but with the energy crisis and everything that is going on around the world.
Ethereum is doing 2.0. It's already released proof of stake where it's less consuming, but still another. If I can just jump for the next related thing, payments are a big issue. So if you need to pay for something a lot to be on a blockchain, because you can see a blockchain as a copy of the database. You have copy of the database, each user which uses that ledger. So if you need to pay a transaction a lot to be added there into all these, let's say, databases, it would also not fly. So you will need to have low cost transactions. And for that, I mean, there are also movements, but I think we are still far from the real possibilities of the blockchain.
You just mentioned something very interesting regarding the climate change, right? And we talked about this. You have some projects working on those as well. But is there any how to express this? Is there any uses of blockchain technology to fight climate change? And because both topics are pretty hot today, so
yeah, there are even working groups around the topic, and they're trying on different ways to convey to these new contexts that maybe can help them struggle and cope with the climate crisis. For sure, that there are potential things that can be done. If you cannot enforce someone to convey to some rules, like someone not polluting the environment, this is the first thing that comes to your mind. So okay, so blockchain is there. Why we do not write the data about a facility producing some machines that pollute the environment? Mine because Rio Tinto, an example, or something like that. That are polluting our environment. Why do not we put the data into the blockchain so it's not being changed? And for that, you for sure know that you need also legislative compliance from the side of the company. And if they are not expecting that, but there's a lot of different problems there.
As a concept, it's pretty cool, right?
Conceptually, it's nice. And also, I'm not sure if you heard about carbon credits.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, this is an interesting thought, I must say, because I think in America they even trading carbon credits. You say, okay, let's say Canada have this much carbon credits, so this means that you can pollute this much your environment, and they sell it to, I don't know, America or Serbia or
everything is for sale.
Everything
today,
is for sale. Right? But also, I mean, there you can also maybe introduce some kind of policy making, stick to also again blockchain, but it's on a very long stick.
I want to continue while we are on this selling point to continue with NFTs. You mentioned it earlier as a part of this concept. So is a buzz right now? It's not that buzz how it was few months ago because of that big crash with crypto and everything, but it's still there. And what is the real value and what is just a bubble when we talk about NFTs?
Well, if you ask
depending who you ask, right?
Exactly, depending. I mean, if you ask developer, most of the developers doesn't believe in NFT because they know in technological sense what does it mean. It's just a link to a picture on a blockchain, and from the psychological perspective, it's completely different because you collect football cards when you were
Yeah.
yeah. This is it. I mean, this is collector stories. So people like to collect, and
It
they
has
think
some kind of emotional value,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, but this is also from another perspective. It's digital. So digital. You cannot sense it. You cannot feel it. But again, it have value because people think it has value, and that's all.
So let's go back to metaverse and the story around it. And of course, when we are talking about this, I'm a big fan of at least first part of Matrix, right? So how far we are exactly from red blue pill that Morpheus gave to Neo?
Well, yeah. We're far like 20 years from the movie that was launched. But it's a good question. So to really enjoy that kind of reality, you really need to have everything what they had in Matrix. So if I can link to the movie, you will need to really have a good technology that can convey that augmented reality, virtual reality around you. So you really need to feel. You need to have haptic devices, which mean that it's connected on your bone or nerves that you can really feel, what is around you, which is augmented digitally, not existing. I think maybe during our lifetime, if we are lucky, we might experience the.
Or not so lucky, depending from which perspective you're looking at it, right? We always like to, when we are going to the end of show, we always like to talk about the future. But before that, before we convey what will happen with the metaverse that is today in the future, I want to ask you about one of your personal projects that you share with me. And it was very interesting for me that what you mentioned on the research that you are doing regarding tropical diseases. And can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we gather around more than 1 year with some researchers that are working in different areas. So one of these areas is climate change. The other are diseases, which are also related to climate. So basically, we have 3 years project with top 2% researchers in the world working in the sandfly-borne diseases. So maybe not much familiar terminology. There's also leishmania and plebo virus, which is connected with these sandflies, which are transferred through people, mostly in areas where there is much hotter than.
So this sounds a bit like malaria, but it's not. It's
not transferred by mosquitoes, but it's kind of different virus with different consequences. But it's for the mortality, I'm not sure if it's more than it's different, but it also has very high mortality if it's not cured on time. And we basically have data sets from dating 100 years back from now, both from climate changes, so weather, how it's been changed, and also having in mind these researchers, we have, I think, almost 100 years of data of these sandflies, which are spread all around Europe.
Wow.
With the virus, so we can merge these two. We can marry
the data set sounds super interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a supercomputer and if you can process it is really good for playing. So
you guys like working on the data models around that, or?
Yeah, we have partners working on data models. Personally, from our side, from our company, we are working on devices that are microclimate devices that are collecting devices in places where they also put these traps for the sandflies to make some correlations, but also with creating the early warning system. So all data that will be modeled and processed by 20 plus partners in the project will be presented over this early warning system, which is decision support for ministries, for governments, for citizens. So it should provide you insights when not to walk your dogs, because it's a lot of common disease with the dogs as well. And also for, if they are in high grass or depending on different parameters met, climating related thing, it can give you some insights and intelligence, what to do or not to do.
So cool.
Yeah.
To go back to metaverse and the future of it, you told me that you're hoping in our lifetime, if that's a good or bad thing, we will see. But question for you now, we talked about use cases that are right now. We see the future as a Matrix and Neo, and of course Morpheus, never without Morpheus. But what you think will be the next use case in the near future that can be next big thing related to metaverse?
You mean for real?
Yeah.
Like that we're going to experience?
Exactly.
Gaming is there. COVID is there. Hope not. But each 100 years some pandemia comes up, and we already have one recently. So in these closed environments, you will probably need to meet with people, and I would say it go in the direction of not traveling in the USA to meet your client, but you can do it from your home directly, like we are here speaking. So this has a really good business model behind, and it will probably be developed. And then
do you know some companies that are working on that right now? Because it is
not sure. Maybe I was reading something around that, but cannot recall at the moment. Also, gaming is a big thing. It's a big.
It's a huge industry, lots of money, right?
Exactly. So and this would be my second guess. So we'll probably experience better games, more intense games, and also if you've seen Black Mirror, you can have a hint from there. Don't play a video game with your male friend. Yeah. No, sorry. We need to be politically correct. But yeah.
Of course. Nenad, thank you so much. This was very interesting and insightful, and I'm very glad that you have been my guest here in Chair. And for you out there, next Thursday, next Innovation Talk, subscribe, and see you again.
Thank you very much.